Hello! This instructional video is on the events of informative and oration. Now, the big difference between an informative and oration, besides the time, the informative is 7 minutes and the oration's 10, is that the oration is trying to persuade you to believe something is either good or bad or something needs to be done, a solution. The typical outline for an oration is a problem, cause, and solution. Okay? Whereas an informative is just trying to educate you about some particular topic. And so those are the big differences. But they have a lot of similarities, and that's why I'm putting this into one video. So the first similarity is the walking. Students, I'll show you what we teach our students to do, and then there's variations. But the introduction should be in the front of the room, and I tell the kids poise. They need to have good poise. They've got a string pulling up their head, and they give the introduction. And then when they go to their first talking point, they take a couple, 3 steps over here. And this is their first talking point. In an oration, this is where the problem is discussed. In informative, it's just their first point. And then imagine this being first base. Okay, that was home plate. This is first base. And then the second point is second base. And they come up here and they talk about, in an oration, they talk about the cause of the problem. In the informative, it's their second talking point. And then we go to third base. We kind of take a couple casual steps back. And in an oration, this is where the solution is given. In an informative, it's their third talking point. And then in conclusion, I tell them to walk over here to the pitching mound. And then they go, first thing I talked about was here, second thing I talked about here, third thing I talked about here. So there's movement involved in these speeches. And the purpose behind that movement is to separate the parts of the speech to help the audience understand, okay, I give my first part here on first base. Now I'm moving to second base. It's pretty darn obvious that I have finished that section of my speech. Now, there's other ways to move. I mean, you can start out intro here. Here's your first talking point. Here's your second talking point. Da-da-da-da. Here's your third talking point. Da-da-da-da-da. Step forward for conclusion. What you're really looking for is, are these steps casual? And then once they reach their next talking point, do they stand still? Or are they doing these little fidgeting, and it looks like a tap dance up there? Also, are they rocking back and forth? You see a lot of rockers in forensics. Are their hand gestures clear and defined? Do they fit the particular word they're trying to emphasize? Or do they do the whole, I'm going to use this same hand gesture for 10 minutes or 7 minutes? If they're using the same hand gesture for 7 minutes, dock them. Tell them, hey, record yourself, watch it, work on your hand gestures, make them more specific. Okay? So that's the body language. Now, as far as the content goes, they need to cite sources. I judged informative last weekend, and not a single kid told me where they got their information from. You gotta cite sources. You gotta say, according to Time Magazine, blah, 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 according to National Geographic, according to Joe Smith and New York Times. They need, in both speeches, they need to be telling you where they got their information from. Furthermore, they need a whole bunch of different sources. If they're only citing 2 sources, they really didn't do much research going into this speech. I tell my kids in informative, I want 5 to 7 sources. In oration, I want 10. I want a whole bunch of sources. That makes you look like, hey, this guy really did a lot of research. We should believe him. Okay? They need to be loud, clear, but also passionate. They need to have some energy to them. Hey, this is important. Or hey, this is kind of fun. You should see this. Both of them can include humor. The informatives are much more likely to have humor in them, but sometimes you get an oration that has humor, and that's okay too. Orations don't have to just be serious. They can have humor in them too. So, All right, so, and then finally, if it comes down to two kids, they both speak really well, they both have great body language, hand gestures, you know, they've got some energy to their voice, they're using facial expressions, what do you judge them on? And when I tell the tiebreaker in that kind of situation is the topic. What did they talk about? If you have somebody who's talking about a serious topic or an important topic, a socially important topic, and you got somebody talking about something that's kind of fluffy, then I tell people vote for the one that's more serious, that has a serious, important topic. Okay, I once judged a round of nationals, and this kid came in and talked about, his entire speech was on how we should be nice to each other. And to me, it just seemed incredibly obvious, like, yeah, that's kind of a given, isn't it? And he spoke incredibly well, but there really wasn't a whole lot of content to his speech, okay? So he didn't do so well on my ballot. So that's kind of an example. Or, anyway, so that's informative oration. Hope you enjoy it.